Hey, I'm Khalila McCoy, and you're listening to the show that reminds you you are not alone. This is Where We Rise. Hey, welcome back to Where We Rise. We've officially reached the last week of July, and if you're an educator, you already know what that means. Summer is basically over. I don't care what the weather is doing outside. The Target school supply aisles are full, the emails are rolling in, and starting next week, I will be back in full school mode, preparing for a brand new school year. I already know some of you are back full mode already. It's a bittersweet season, so make sure you check in on your teacher friends. But to honor back to school season, I wanted these next few episodes to relate to school, but also teach us something about others. So that curiosity led me to today's guest, April Ratchford. She's an autistic occupational therapist, a mother, and the host of a podcast, Adulting with Autism. In this conversation, April and I touch on some things such as diagnoses and emotional realities of parenting a neurodivergent young adult as she walks us through her son's journey from struggling in college to finding the right supports. She shares practical insights about what autistic teens and adults actually need as they transition into the real world. April's honesty, humor, and lived experience make this conversation engaging from start to finish. Let's listen. Hi, April. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited that you're here. So I shared with you before, I actually saw you on a show of a previous guest of mine. And in that episode, you guys were talking about adulting with autism. And I really liked the way that you reframed autism, not as a deficit, but just as a different way of experiencing the world. And I thought that was really powerful. And I think the more we understand neurodivergence through that lens, the better we can support and help each other and grow. So that's why I asked you to come on, and I'm so excited you said yes. So if you can start off, I don't know a lot about you either. I'm learning along with my listeners. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be so passionate about this topic.
So I'm April Ratchford. I am an autistic occupational therapist. I am late diagnosed. I have a 24-year-old son who is also autistic and has spina bifida. And what I have gone through with him through the years and transitioning him into adulthood, I found out there's nothing there for them. Like
Okay.
he went to college at 19, failed out, and I couldn't find anything to help him transition. We didn't get anything when he graduated high school. And as an OT, I don't do pediatrics for a reason. I am in long-term care rehab. So
Okay.
I was navigating this on my own. I was like, there's no OT out here like helping parents transition kids into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And I got frustrated because my son was getting depressed and he didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to go. He just blew $10,000
Right.
because they took advantage of him. And I was like, fine, I'm going to start a podcast and bring on guests that could help other autistic young adults transition into the adult world. Like whether it be mental health or relationships, sexual intimacy, all the things they didn't get in school that
Right.
they should have gotten. And here I am.
Yeah. Well, no, I like that. I like that I always think it's very admirable when people take a situation that they're going through, improve their situation, but don't just stop there. They say, how can I help other people? So I like that you're doing that as well. So let's back up first to you. You said that you were late diagnosed. When were you diagnosed then?
So it's funny because a lot of women don't really get diagnosed correctly until we hit menopause. And I was doing this, the more I kept doing my podcast, the more boxes I kept ticking. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm autistic. So I look at my
Oh.
baby book. I didn't speak until I was 2.5 years of age. I had speech all through like first and second grade. I have my own idiosyncrasies about things. I have my
Mm-hmm.
own meltdowns. I was like, well, this makes sense.
It's like
Guess,
all coming together.
yeah, I was like, well,
So you didn't really notice what you were going through until you started helping your son?
right.
Okay. So then did you have to bring it to your doctor and say, hey, these are all the things that I'm noticing?
Uh, Not really, because my
Okay.
doctor is like, well, you're an occupational therapist. You would know. And I was like,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So, because I should have figured it out when I was in my master's program,
Mm-hmm.
because I could not get through my AMP test without zoning out after hour one.
Mm-hmm.
And my best friend was like, I don't understand. You dunk these out, but you can't pass your test. But it's because I like, if it's not interesting to me, the 3 hours of testing is
Yeah, that's a long
exhausting.
time.
And then
Yeah.
I did it again with my OT boards. I failed those for the first time. And that was 5 hours. And
Mm.
I knew the first time I wasn't going to pass because I kept focusing on all the clicking noises from the
Mm-hmm.
other typewriters. And I was
Oh
like,
my goodness. Yeah.
I can't focus. I can't. It was over. So I should have figured it out. My sister was late diagnosed as well, but
Okay.
she is autistic and ADHD, like her
Mm-hmm.
youngest son, and her
Okay.
older two are also autistic.
I was going to say, I've heard before for women that ADHD often gets misdiagnosed or later on because, for women, they think it's something else. Do you
Hmm.
feel like it was the same thing for you guys? Like, as you were going through those things before you learned all the things that you should have known, but could have known about it? Was it just you thought it was, oh, I'm just not interested, so I'm not paying attention, or I'm just distracted?
Yeah, because it took me forever to pass college. Like people
Mm-hmm.
are like, "Oh, you must be so smart," and I'm like, "No, I went back to college at 35.
Uh-huh.
I finally could like be focused and organized enough
Mm-hmm.
to get through college." Whereas my sister was my opposite. She's got that ADHD portion where she can be like, she's misorganized. She can do 3 computers at a time. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can't do all that. But most of us are late diagnosed. And if we're kids of the 80s and 90s,
Mm-hmm.
you rolled with it. You just had
Right.
to adapt on your own.
Now, for your son, were you able to notice his neurodivergency pretty early?
At the time, I was a nurse. I didn't notice it, but my sister was an OT long before I was. And she looked at
Mhm.
him. She's like, he's got autism. I was like, no, no, he's just a little shy. She's like, there ain't been a kid that watched Thomas the Train like he does that isn't on the spectrum. I was like, no. But sure enough, she was right. So he would
Yeah.
flap. And so she would teach him how to put his hands in his pocket so he wouldn't flap. He
Mhm.
lined up his toys. We didn't play. We just lined them up and carried them. And I was like, it's
Mhm.
kind of awkward. But then when I tried to get him diagnosed, all they told me was he just got anxiety. And I was like,
Mm.
anxiety? What? He's not been on the planet long enough to have anxiety. So
I like that answer.
it took until he was 10 years old until a psychiatrist looked at me. He said, you're right. Your son is high functioning autistic. And I was like,
Mm.
thank you, Jesus.
Now that's a long time. How do you feel about that? Because it seems like they almost kind of dismissed what you were noticing as a mom and a learning professional as well.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I, 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 I I throw shade at them all the time, but I feel like too, a lot of times if you are African American
Mhm.
or another race, they want to throw kids into, oh, oppositional defiance, anxiety. I'm like, he's presenting the same as his Caucasian peers.
Mhm.
What is it because you think I'm a single mom and I don't have a job? what is it?
Right.
So,
There's
and
a lot of
people,
questions and things that you kind of had to deal with to
yep.
get to the point of diagnosis.
Yeah. And it's hard. And I tell parents all the time, I'm like, it does not matter where you come from. It's going to be in all cultures, all races across the globe. They present similar, but a lot of culture, you're going to have to be a little more fine tooth because sometimes you're not going to catch it because in certain cultures, kids don't say no to food. They eat
Mhm.
whatever. And people are like, oh, they don't have autism. I was like, she's not speaking. Please enlighten me of why they're like, well, she's eating. I'm like, I don't care. She's from another country. Is she going to say no? Her parents are going to totally be different.
Mhm.
So that's why I feel like a lot of kids slip through cracks because people don't take that cultural context and miss
Right.
what could be like early intervention.
Yeah. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about autism. I am in the schooling system. So, I've worked with kids with autism and things like that. And we have an autism unit in our building. And I know the care and expertise that the teachers do to work with those students. But I also know there's like a really large spectrum, right, for autism. So, how do you figure out that it is autism versus, like you said, a cultural thing or just a behavior of that specific child?
Typically, it should be, I think, 2 days of testing for these kids
Mhm.
because they not only see a psychiatrist, they see a PT, an OT, a speech, and they work as a team to kind of weed out all these things.
Right.
And I feel like parents inherently know
Okay.
that something is not ticking. And
Right.
some parents with the severe autism, which is now called level 3, you can pretty much see the regression.
Mhm.
But with level 1 and level 2, it's such a spectrum in between those things that, one might be one way, the other might be the other way. Like my son had difficulty transitioning,
Mhm.
but my niece and nephew didn't. They could,
Okay.
they transitioned and did fine. He was like, I don't know I'm like, oh God, you're going to be that one. Okay. You're going to take after me. I see.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on parents who struggle with that diagnosis and are like, "No, they're fine," and don't get into that early intervention? How would you support them or encourage them to let, that worry or whatever it is, how would you encourage them to let that go so their kid can get the help that they need?
So I'm pretty blunt
Mhm.
and I'm that rogue therapist that will say it to them and be like, your kid has autism. And I'm like, you can't sit there and say he's going to be this way when he grows up because you don't know. And then I tell
Mhm.
him, I'm autistic. I have 2 degrees. My entire family is autistic. We don't know what that 11-year-old is going to be. We're still waiting. So people treat it like it's a life sentence. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's not. But I think the fear is because there's nothing there after school. They're like, what happens after that? And everybody
Right.
does this. Parents don't want to hear that. They want the next
No.
step. They're like, I know he can go through school and get help in school, but what about after school and when he's an adult? And everybody's like, so it's a real fear because they're already panicking the worst case scenario.
Right.
And then here we are just figuring out they're becoming adults. I'm like, so y'all didn't think they were going to grow up? I didn't.
Yeah. And I will say it's hard to hear because, like I said, I am in the educational space. I'm in elementary school, and we get kids who go through testing and things like that. And we'll sit the parents down and say, they need an IEP or something. And the parents will ask, like, oh, well, if I do this, if I put them in special education, will they be able to go to college? And we always say, yeah, of
And
course they'll be able to go to college and they'll get some support all through elementary, through middle school, through high school, and things like that. And yes, they'll be able to go to college. But it's interesting hearing now, like, you'll go to college, but what happens when you get there is completely different.
right,
So
because
that's
some
kind of
kids,
discouraging in a way to hear.
because like if I had known that there were actual colleges out there that had autism specific supports for autistic students and ADHD specific supports out there, I wouldn't have sent my kid to a regular public school. And
Mm,
parents don't know that. I didn't know
no,
that until I
yeah,
started doing my podcast. And I was like, wait, they have these things? Why don't I know this? I'm a
right.
therapist. Why was this not taught to me? Why do I not know any of these things? And I tell my story to give parents hope because yes, my son did fail out at 19, but he was able to hold a job for 2 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to let him sit and play video games. Are you kidding me?
That's good.
He can shower himself. Now, does he drive? No, he still has anxiety about driving, which I don't
Hmm.
care. Drive or not drive. But
Right.
he has now completed his first year at Marshall University. He's on his own.
Okay.
He is carrying a 2.5. He got a
Mhm.
3.3 last semester. He's in his summer school.
Okay.
He's a sophomore now. So
Yeah.
after next year, he'll be a junior and he's ready to get out there and travel the world. He wants to be a foreign exchange student. You just have to
Nice.
be on their timetable and not the rest of the world.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Now, what type of supports do you feel like they were providing that was different?
So at Marshall, I didn't realize they keep their school calendar a lot for their neurodivergent population. Like my son doesn't have to go home on breaks. He just has to tell them, I'm staying in my dorm. Or if
Mhm.
he's only coming home for 2 weeks to stay on his routine.
Okay.
So they don't shut down like other schools did. And I was like, this is freaking fantastic. My son didn't come home for spring break. He didn't come home for fall break. He only came home for 2 weeks on his winter break so he could
Because
go
it's a
right
little
back and
longer.
get back
Yeah.
into his routine. And
That's
it's a small
nice.
campus and they provide a lot for their neurodivergent community.
Mhm. Now you said that's not widely known, right? That schools provide that type of support as well. So how I mean, other than, like you said, you had your podcasts. So now I guess people can listen to your podcast to find out more. But is it something when you're applying for schools that that should be asked?
You should ask, like, because not all schools are going to have autism specific supports. They do have student support services, but that's like
Mhm.
all encompassing
Right.
everybody with a disability. And that really doesn't cater how autistic brains and ADHD brains work.
Mhm.
So there's certain schools that have it, certain schools that don't. Every school has their own rule about getting in.
Right.
Like my son tried to get into the autism specific support program because they only have limited seating because it's such a tight group and there are a lot
Okay.
of one-on-one. And he just didn't get in, but he went and he's like, yeah, I don't really need it. I just need extra time on my tests. And away he went. He gets his
Mhm.
own tutors. He goes to the library. He's learned how to navigate the computer system. And now he's like a regular student fussing and cussing about professor.
Did he kind of have to do that on his own? Like, were you able to be there, or is like a person who they buddy him up with?
No, he pretty much, they do have buddy systems that you can
Mhm.
interact with. My son is not about that program, but
Okay.
he, he would call and say, hey, what do I need to do this? And I'm like, you need to go to student accessibility and
Mm-hmm.
get your stuff together because you're an adult. She's like, fine. So he'll go do it. And then, the Office of Disability, all these things. He knows where to go. Now, he may not know where the buildings are. And I'm like, look on your map because the map doesn't always work. I was like, it's called Google. Google will help. But he's done well. He's made
Mm-hmm.
friends. He's learned how to ride a bus by himself with friends. So I'm pretty
So tell
proud of
us
him.
about being a mom far away while your son's going through that. And like you said, getting on a bus by himself. Like, did you know he was doing it the first time? Were you nervous for him?
I had no idea. He just called and he was like, hey, I'm at Walmart. And I was like, how'd you get to Walmart? He's like, I took the bus with my two friends and we can't find the umbrellas. Where do you find those? I was like,
Aw.
that's the question? He's like, yeah, we can't find them. I was like, it's in the purses. He's like, thanks, bye, click. So, and I will say that for a lot of autistic parents, like, they're succeeding when your phone isn't ringing 20 times a day.
Okay.
So I rarely hear from him unless he's got a complaint or he wants to use his credit card. And he's like, can I use my credit card? I was like, what's it for? He's like, I just want DoorDash some Chinese. I don't care.
You can use
Yeah.
it.
But
Now, what about the people who are adulting without going to college and things like that and going into the workforce?
so I'll give a piece of advice. Just because it makes you a lot of money doesn't mean it's for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Good
unfortunately,
advice.
the world is still very neurotypical. They want to fit
Mm-hmm.
you in the box and you've got to roll with the flow and you've got to work for your nervous system. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you hate people, customer service is not for you. It's called go work in a warehouse where you're by yourself, you can do your job and leave.
Right. There's
If
some neurotypical people who need to remember that too.
you don't like people, this is not your thing. Or if you want to be social and you want to help people, but you don't know if you're going to like it. You don't have to stay
Mm-hmm.
and give it 30 days. If it's like crappy and you're like, this is not for me, there are other jobs out there.
Yeah.
And they can ask for, voc rehab does help with coaching and things. But I'm going to tell you, it's not the quickest on
Okay.
the planet. Here in Kentucky, it might be quicker other places, but they just have to know what they can and cannot do. What's your strengths? List them out.
Mm-hmm.
But don't focus on your weaknesses. That's not going to get you nowhere. Focus on what you can do
Right.
and start small. And parents need to learn that just because they're not out of your house by 18, 19, 20. I wasn't out of my mother's house until I was like 26. So
Mm-hmm.
let them stay, let them learn, let them fall on their face. They will be fine.
Right. Now thinking about somebody who either is a friend or a coworker with somebody with autism, what are some things? And I know, like I said, it's a spectrum, so everybody's a little bit different, but just to make sure that you're treating that person, so sometimes with someone's neurodivergent, we almost baby them at times, right? Or we go to the other extreme of trying to ignore them or being rude. I'm not saying we as and I do that, but you know what I mean? Those are extremes of how people can be treated. So in that, where would that middle be of truly understanding that person and working with them?
It's patience and respect.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're your coworker, just say, hey, do you need any help? If they look lost. If
Mm-hmm.
they're not getting it really fast, understand it's not because they can't get it. It's just maybe somebody's not explaining it in a way that they understand.
Right.
Like, it's very simple. Like, sometimes it just takes a different way of saying things. Like, I didn't understand anatomy and physiology, and I went to my sister. I said, explain this in April terms. So she would have to like do a whole language change. And I was like, oh, why didn't they just say that? She was like, because you're a little different. I was like, okay, but just be friendly.
Mhm.
Understand they're not going to trust you on command. You have to earn their trust
Right.
and they have to feel safe. Nobody's that's neurodivergent. If they don't feel safe around you, they're not going to open up. So don't
Mhm.
take offense.
Right.
Just let them blossom. Just be friendly and open.
Mhm. Now, I know you work with a lot of adults who are kind of transitioning into the real world, if you will. What has been the most difficult thing that you've come across for them?
I'm going to say parent expectations
Hmm.
because it hits all of us because we know how smart our kids are. We know they're
Right.
bright, but it doesn't mean college is always going to be the thing or, you know, they're going to be doctors or weird physicists or whatever you have. Meet
Mhm.
them where they are. Just meet them where they are. And you're going to have to understand that they're adults now. They are young adults.
Mhm.
You have to ask them, what do they want? Like, I don't have power of attorney of my son, which people are like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm going to be dead one day. So he's got to learn to navigate all of these things on his own. And does he like to do it? No. Does
Mhm.
he always know how? No. But I'll get on three-way with him. I was like, call whoever you need to call and I'll help you through it. And he
Right.
does it. He hates calling the insurance people. He's like, I'm like, welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
But let them do for themselves. Teach them one thing at a time. They will get
Mhm.
it.
What are some of the things emotionally that you've seen they struggle with as well?
That their maturity doesn't always match their age. Just
Mhm.
because they're 18 doesn't mean they're mature at 18.
Right.
Their maturity level could be anywhere from 13 to 15. And that tears a lot of parents up. And I'm like, you've got to remember, just because they're 18 doesn't mean this autism thing just quickly just goes away.
Right.
The neurotypical brain doesn't mature until 25. So I'm going to say I was 30 before I got it together. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, but I was 26 when I had my kids. So it's a good thing he survived.
Yeah.
But you've got to understand that their maturity will come. It just comes a little bit later.
Mhm.
Like my son turned 18. I was like, oh, I see, we have not got it together. But now he's 24 and some of that maturity has kicked in. He's like, okay, I can do this.
Right. How have you seen that affect his relationships? Because you talked about before, relationships are different, be it friendships or intimacy.
He has a boyfriend.
Mhm.
They are both, I guess, going to be video game designers.
Okay.
And so his boyfriend goes to online school. And I was like, that is not your option. You don't learn very well that way. You need some people. So he's at school and every now and then he'll ask a question. He'll be like, so what do I do if he's just constantly trauma just dumping? I was like, put a boundary up,
Yeah.
cut it off.
Mhm.
I'm like, you are now an adult. You can put up your boundaries. They can either like it or not. And he's pretty blunt. So people ask, do you want I want your opinion. I was like, listen, before you open your mouth, you
Make
tell
sure.
them that, do you want the real truth that I'm going to say, or you want me to lie to you because I know who you are? So
Is his boyfriend neurodivergent as well?
yes,
Okay.
I'm like, y'all are just a lot.
Now, do you find with the people you work with, is it typical that two neurodivergent people will, because I know obviously some don't, but is that typical? Like they usually kind of bond together because of everything that they've went through or?
I think so because they
Hmm.
feel like that person understands them.
Right.
So I don't know how people just find each other because sometimes
Hmm.
when you're in your 50s and you just run into somebody, you're like, oh, you're neurodivergent too. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, you didn't know? You're awfully the ADHD because I know my
Hmm.
boss I work for. I was like, girl, if you don't get some meds for your ADHD, he's like, it's fine. I have 9,000 things going on. I was like, you wear me out.
Do you find in the relationship when it's two neurodivergent people, is it typically more difficult or is it as any relationship would progress? Because, like you said, he's still in different maturity and they both might be. They're both learning different things. Does that usually strengthen them as they go forward versus like when you have a neurotypical person who's trying to understand the differences and support them? Does
I
that make
think,
sense what I'm asking?
yeah, I
Okay.
think it really comes down to anybody's relationship is communication
Mhm.
and being comfortable who you are and where you are and letting that person know.
Okay.
But, every neurodivergent person is different, like ADHD and
Right.
autism different, or if they're both ADHD and autistic and this is ADHD, it could be one big mess if
Mhm.
no communication. Um, just like any neurotypical couple, it could
Relationship,
be
right.
communication issues. But I feel like when it's neurotypical with the neurodivergent, neurotypical have to understand all those sensory issues that they probably never encountered. Whereas
Mhm.
two neurodivergent people, they could be like, hey, I don't like noise. And the other one's like, cool, here's some head counseling noise headphones. And they can work it out, not offended. But
Mhm.
neurotypical people tend to be like, I don't understand. Why do you do this and do this? And I'm like, and you don't really have the answer. You're like, that's just my nervous system. That's what it's wired.
Yeah. As you're working with your different clients and your own experience, what are some of your favorite experiences or your favorite things working with the different people you've met?
Listen, it's always a fun household when my niece, nephew, and my son get together because they like
Mhm.
playing college games, and you're watching all these autistic people
Mhm.
play Uno like it's spades. Like they just, it's like, I'm like, it's Uno. Why are y'all just
They're
slamming
so
cards down like it's
serious.
spades? And they're like taking shots. And I'm like, these are adults. I was like, were we like this? I look at my sister. I was like, did we do this? And she was like, probably worse. But and we forget they're like, oh yeah, they're still in their 20s.
Mhm.
They just like weird things. Or um, it's always nice to see other neurodivergent entrepreneurs that I interview that you
Mhm.
can clearly see they're not comfortable with people, but they have a lot to give and
Mhm.
want to help others. And ask my advice. And I'm like, oh God, I love you. You're asking my advice. But a lot of the times it's really guesswork because there's not a lot of research on adults through the autism spectrum and how they
Mhm.
age, comorbidities, because all the research is primarily kids. And so
Okay. Are you starting to see more research come out about that?
there's only been one grant in the country
Wow.
granted for its research study of autistic adults.
Mhm.
So hopefully in the next year. And if everybody's going to be like, is it going to be you? I'm like, no, I know my lane and it's not research.
Okay.
I, that's a long study and my attention
Right.
span's not that great.
Yeah. So if there's not a lot of research, there's not a lot of resources out there, then how are you helping people? Is it more just from your experience and then just like you said, that patience and taking the time to truly know them and moving forward with that?
That and you start in the autism world, you start to learn who has developed things for autistic adults,
Mm-hmm.
navigating them to neurodivergent coaches or therapists. And the great thing about COVID is we can do anything virtually. So the
Yes,
option is
true.
there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unfortunate that, not a lot of autistic adults are earning a lot of money. So getting them those supports are really hard. And
I see.
eventually, my hope before I leave this planet is to start a foundation just for autistic young adults from 18 to 34.
Okay. Why
So
18
they
to
can,
34?
usually that's the range of young adulthood is
Okay.
18 and
I see what
34.
you're saying. Okay. So then they'll be able to continue with what they've been supported with at the beginning. Okay.
Yeah. And if
That
it
makes
grows
sense.
more out, that'd be great. But,
Yeah.
and maybe people will realize, oh, we need to look at the other part of the lifespan as they age, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
more supports will come out. Because I
Yeah.
keep seeing more and more actors figure out they're autistic, and I'm like, you didn't know? Kind of weird.
But like you said, no one's telling them, what it is or what they're seeing, and they just assume it's something else.
Very true.
Yeah. So are you an author as well?
Am I an author? Absolutely not.
Okay.
I wish I had the patience, maybe down the road,
Uh-huh.
once my kid figures out his life and
It-
whatever he's going to be successful at, and then I can
Mhm.
write a book. But until then, I just podcast my little butt off and hope it helps parents
Yeah.
and clinicians and autistic adults.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about your podcast.
So it's called Adulting with Autism. I started it 2.5 years ago. It primarily helps with, mental health, relationships, understanding your brain,
Mhm.
why you think the way you do, careers, if school is for you or not, just a safe space for them to be like, oh, I'm not by myself. This is not an uncommon thing. So they know they're going to melt down in adulthood. You're going to have autistic burnout if you don't take care of yourself.
Mhm.
And, trying to connect them with resources, like books that could be read or, coaches that are more skilled than I am. But it's what I do for them. My son asks me every day because he's like, are you famous yet? And I'm like, no, no, I am not famous.
Does he want you to be famous?
Yeah, he's like, you should be making lots of money. I'm like, this is not how any of this works. This is not how none of this
That'd
works,
be
son.
really nice, but hey, you never know. I mean, I've seen you have a really big following. And like you said, not a lot of people are talking about this. So you are definitely filling in a gap there. So even if you don't become famous, you're going to be
Right.
famous for those people, right? You mean a lot to the people that you're supporting and helping and finding along the way.
Yeah, it's nice because it's like a big family group. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you got a question, you can always find me. Or I'll point you in the right direction.
Yes. So how can people find you?
So the best way to find me is on my website, adultingwithautism.com. It has all my socials, a free guide if they would like it. I have autism awareness shirts for young
Mm-hmm.
adults. There's no rainbows or horses or unicorns. So no, y'all aren't into that. So it's mostly words like not masking, just magic,
Mm-hmm.
or autistic, authentic, unapologetic, things that kind of make them feel like, yeah, I'm good with this.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Like proud of
autism is
who
just
they
a
are.
different frequency, just so they're like,
Yes.
yeah.
Do you find saying that about the shirts makes me interested. Do you find that it's often hard for them to go out into the world and just appreciate who they are? Is there a lot of that in the adulting world that that we all have, right? Like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, or, people are going to look at me weird. Do you find like that's a big part of the support that you give?
A lot of the times, especially if they're later diagnosed, simply because it really wasn't talked about as much as it
Mm-hmm.
is now. Now it's like this buzzword, like you hear
Yeah.
it everywhere. So neurodivergency, neurospicy. So people aren't as afraid to talk about it like they were like maybe 5, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So like my son will stuck around on campus and look at people and he's not afraid to say, yeah, I'm autistic. Get out my face. So I'm like, you don't really have to. He's like,
You don't have to
what?
tell them that.
I was like, listen, don't be a dick.
Right.
But yeah, just now, if we could just get like therapists and other clinicians to tell kids, hey, it's fine that, your handwriting is going to suck. Let's focus on what you're good at
Mm-hmm.
and help them prep that way. Because
Yeah.
I was like, I look at my son's writing every day and I'm like, you can read that? I'm glad you type.
Right.
So,
Now you're a clinician. Do you work for like a hospital or a school, or do you have a practice that you're with?
fun fact, I am a long-term care rehab therapist. I
Okay.
do have people reach out to me and they're like, do you think you can mentor a coach? And I was like, I don't know, because I work a full-time job too. So, but if they ask for my advice, I try to give as much as I know because
Mm-hmm.
really in this field, it's really a trial and error as an adult because they're
Right.
not going to be the same as they were as kids.
Mm-hmm.
You change as you grow and your experiences change who you are.
Right. So tell us, what would be the biggest takeaway that you would want either a parent to have or just a listener to have from what you've shared and what you are doing and have experienced? What could we take from this conversation to help us rise in our own lives?
You are never alone. There is always community for you. Even if it's online, there's a community for you.
Yeah, I like that. And you're definitely growing a big community. And like I said, I will link your podcast in our show notes. I've listened to a few of the episodes, and there's a lot that I could learn from and apply to my own life as well. So I think people are people, right? And we
Right.
still need that community. We still need to learn to be patient and to be kind. And like I said at the beginning, I like how you just reframe. It's just that perspective of how you look at life. So
That's all.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I really appreciate your time today
Well,
sharing
thank
that.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
April left us with such a powerful reminder. You are never alone. There is always community for you. And the beautiful thing about community is that it doesn't have to look one specific way. It can be made up of people with different strengths, different perspectives, and different ways of experiencing the world, all bringing value in their own way. When we understand that, we begin to show up differently as parents, educators, coworkers, and friends. We learn how to walk alongside others and meet them where they are. I highly recommend April's podcast. As I mentioned, there's a lot to learn from her show, even if you are not an adult with autism yourself. I asked her what her favorite episodes were, and she shared her top 3. I'll add them to the show notes so you know a great place to start listening. If you or someone you love needs support because of neurodivergence, take time to explore what resources your state offers. It can be frustrating and sometimes discouraging, as April shared, to find the right programs, but many do exist. And the more we share our experiences, ask questions, and talk openly about neurodivergence, the more awareness we build. My hope is that conversations like this lead to better systems, better access, and better support for every family navigating this journey. Thank you so much, April, for being on the show today and for sharing your passion and your heart. And thank you, friend, for joining me for another episode. I am so happy you are here today. As you move through the rest of your day, I hope you take a moment to listen a little louder to yourself, to the people you love, and to the things that connect us in ways we sometimes forget to notice. I'll meet you back here next time. See ya, bye.